Welcome back to the Urban Elementz studio. It's actually been 2 or 3 weeks since I've been in here and actually recorded anything. Sometimes, sounds stupid, sometimes I get like, I don't know what the word is, like paranoid or something. Nervous is probably the better word. And I just keep putting it off. But I've been busy out here nonetheless. I got 5 different drawer units to put underneath the frame, the Bernina Q24 frame. 3 of them were less expensive. They were just from Amazon, and the other 2 I got from IKEA. Many of you have mentioned them in the past on different Facebook pages, the Alex drawer units. So I have the majority of my paper pantos in there, but I also have in there my design boards, and I have my tearaway papers, and I have my tattoos in there as well. So I'm trying to consolidate all of the stuff in there so it's easier for me to find, because the studio gets pretty messy. So that's one of the things I've been doing, and I've alphabetized all of the paper pantos, and had to use all my fingers and toes for that so I could get that done. And now I'm finally ready to get back to work after I built up my confidence again. What I'm going to do today is assemble all of these Zen Garden blocks. They've been sitting here for quite a while, and so these will be the last 2 steps. Will be assembling the blocks with the sashing inner border and outer border, which I have all together, and then also going ahead and getting this quilted so we can get it hanging up. So that's what I'm going to be working on today. I wasn't planning on using this originally. I was just going to use the orange and green, but I'm okay. I think I'm okay with using it. I may not, because this is the only fabric that would be just woven cotton. The rest of them are batik. So I may look upstairs to see if I have a gold batik. I'm sure I do. I have a lot of gold batik. But I think I want to do a different sashing than I have that, for the inner border. So I'm going to cut some of those strips and get that started, and then you will see me doing a little bit of sewing. I won't bore you with a lot of sewing today because it gets monotonous, redundant. But I will show you some of the sewing, and then we can get this going a little bit. Kind of in between seasons. Christmas is over, so I took my trees down. New Year's is over, and I hope you all had a really good Christmas and a good New Year's. But we have no idea when you'll watch this, so that may not make any sense if you watch this in June or July. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. And the blocks are still pretty good shape. They've been laying perfectly flat, so I don't need to iron those again. But I will go ahead and get this fabric ironed and cut. Probably the inner sashing will be, I'll cut 1.5 inches, and the outer border I may just cut it at 6 inches. I usually like to cut the outer borders a little bit wider than they need to be, and then I can go ahead and trim it down after it's quilted. That way, if for any reason the outer border is wavy or anything from being distorted on the quilting frame at all, I can go ahead and trim it down. Or if visually it just looks like too much, I can still trim it down, and I don't mind doing that. I have plenty of this fabric. It was purchased specifically for this project, so I'm just going to go ahead and do probably 6.5 inches cut, finish it like 5.5 inches with the binding on it. But I'm going to go ahead and get all those things started, and this will be another one that we could get hopefully finished soon. I also have a few other ones that I need to get binding made for, so I can get my friend to start doing the hand whipping on the binding. Well, after I made my declaration of sashing, I went upstairs, and the more I looked, the more I hated it. I couldn't find any gold that would work. All of my golds were the wrong color for this, and I didn't want to change that out. So then I started looking into more of a fuchsia pink color, and they were either the same value as the inner border and they wouldn't have shown up there, or they were too dark and they would have been it would have overpowered the inner and outer border, or they were too light and they would have drugged down the jewel tones of the actual blocks themselves. So that's what happens. That was my mental process, and so we're back to just putting the blocks together as they were here. So as much as I tried to get sashing for Zen Garden, we're not going to get sashing today. I'm going to go ahead and put the blocks together because I failed on the sashing front. I guess I could have tried a jade color, but I really have to get a video done because I'm delinquent. So I'm not going to bring these over at all because I don't need those yet. Those won't go until I have all the blocks together. I'm going to bring these over to the table and just start assembling those in rows, and then I'll put the rows together. It should be pretty quick. Okay, I started over. I have the blocks in rows the way they're going to go, and I'm just going to sew 1, 2, 3, and then I'll get up and iron them. So I'm going to sew 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I can just sew those rows straight across. These are going to be pretty straightforward, so certainly you could pin or clip. I've even in the past used a tiny bit of glue stick if I have really long seams, but you could do anything that you needed to do to make sure that those were matched up edge to edge. And over the years I've done and not done all kinds of things. All of these are just going to be 1/4 inch seams. I'm just using Aurifil thread, cotton. It's just a white. So I'm just going to flip this open and add the next one onto it. That way I could just not have to get up. If I had my iron right here, I could go ahead and pop the seam pressed on it, but I don't really need to because it's not interfering with anything at this point. I can get these done quicker just by sitting here and flipping those open. I was getting caught up looking at Facebook a little bit earlier. I'm on a lot of different Facebook groups, and quilting, hand quilting, friends of Applique, Bernina owners, long arm owners, beginning long arm owners, beginning quilting. But some people post their pieces that they have in their collection. Some of them are the things they've collected, and some of the people have such beautiful things in their collection. I don't know that I would say that I'm envious or even jealous. I wish in some way we could both have a copy of it, but I love the old red and green quilts, and I'm not sure what time period they come from, late 1800s, early 1900s. I've heard that they came over from Germany, that tradition of red and green. Sometimes I've heard them as, what is it, chrome red and chrome green, I think. I have seen people that have orphan blocks that never got made into anything. I always try and collect those when I see them. But you don't really see them that often. I mean, something hanging around from the late 1800s, early 1900s, pretty rare in itself. Also, the other thing that I love to find are quilt tops from that time period as well. The red and green, and it gives me something to practice quilting on. Now, I know really they should be hand quilted, but fewer and fewer people are doing hand quilting. And I'd much rather a top be finished than put it off so long hoping that it will get hand quilted. This is going pretty quick, as I figured it would. I just want to make sure I am putting these together in the correct orientation. Not that it would really be a huge thing if it weren't, because for the most part these pieces aren't terrifically directional. A butterfly really could just about fly in any direction. A hummingbird you might notice if it was upside down, but the rest of these, the flowers, is there really an upside down flower? I'm not sure. Yeah, red and green, those quilts, out of all of the things, normally I don't like to collect quilts that aren't mine. Of course I have quilts that people gifted me and I love those. But as far as antique and vintage quilts, generally speaking, I don't collect them. But those red and green quilts are like a huge thing for me. And I think it's really because I love Christmas so much. This is going to have to be trimmed. I think this particular block is too big. I think just because they're red and green, they remind me of Christmas. And I have a few. And I've decorated the studio in my red and green quilts one year for Christmas. And also I think I was doing quilting on one of them. I used Twirly Girl's pattern and quilted several different blocks on one of the vintage quilt tops that I found. And I thought it came out really nice. One of the things usually you'll notice with an older quilt like that, sometimes they're not as accurate as some of our quilts are today. And I think it's funny that we today love the quilts from the past so much, despite all of the flaws in them. In fact, a lot of time it's all the flaws that endear us to the quilt so much, and yet we're so rough on ourselves when we make mistakes. And it may very well be our mistakes that our ancestors are absolutely crazy about. I know some people like absolute perfection. I mean, yes, it's nice to have a Michelangelo or, you know, a beautiful marble bust that's absolute perfection. But also there's some really beautiful pieces of art that aren't quite absolute perfection, that are, you know, have the flaws in it that really give you something to kind of grab onto and stare at and think about. And those are a reflection of ourselves. I've never ever pretended like I was perfect. I think though I try and hide the fact that how imperfect I am so I can go out in public. But there's no sense in pretending that I would be perfect at all, because I know I'm not. But I'm very comfortable with myself. I'm very comfortable. I have my 4 rows of 3 blocks in the order in which they will go down. So what I'm going to do, because these seams will match the next ones, I'm going to press some to the right and some to the left, alternating all the way down so that those will nest. So I'm just going to start with the first one, and I'm going to press this one this way. And then the next one I'm going to press the opposite way. You can see I have a little bit to trim on that one. I don't think it's going to make any difference though to anything. Now this one we're going back to that way. And this just makes it so that those seams nest a little better and they won't be any bulk. This fabric's pretty thin anyway, and there's only those 4 seams coming together. Well, actually 2. So that should be fairly good to go. And this one is also back that way. So I'm going to go ahead and trim those little pieces up, and then I'm going to go ahead and get back to sewing the rows together. And again, I'm not going to get up after I sew the rows together until the whole body of the quilt is together, and then I can press those seams. Again, because they're not going to be connecting to anything else until I get all of the body together. So I can go ahead and put them all together when I get them done. I have to remember that the one that I put down first was the top one, and the one I put down second was the next row. So kind of reverse of what it looked like here on the table. And what I need to do certainly is pin these intersection where the blocks go together, and they nest together really beautifully because I have pressed that seam together. So I'm sure everybody has their own idea of like a beautiful period, a different quilt that they love, something that they would collect. I know some of you are beginners. Maybe you haven't developed that yet. Maybe you only like your own. I don't have any reason for specifically liking that red and green. There were none in my family. Wasn't passed down a tradition in my family. The only explanation is that I love red and green and Christmas. That's the only thing that would make sense to anybody as far as why I like those two, that color combination. Another thing is a great majority of them are applique, and I do love applique. But actually not all of them are applique. Some of them are pieced blocks. I have been collecting them at orphan blocks, like I said, and I have some applique and some pieced blocks. I just don't have enough to put together yet. So while I was on my panic attack break, I alphabetized all of my regular pantos, and I got those all put into the drawer unit. And those are all in the smaller drawer units. I got those just off of Amazon. Make sure I'm going the right way again. Flowers, birds, butterfly would be in the middle, down here. And then I got the one with the larger drawers to go for my, that one houses the club sets, because I have quite a bit of those. I probably have maybe 80, close to 80 of those design club sets. And then I also put the design boards in the larger ones and everything that goes with the design boards. So like the little stylus that drops down into the groove, and all of my O-rings are in there as well in the drawers, and the catalog for the design boards. And then I have all of the tearaways. Those are in a couple of the other drawers. I have all the blocks and corners in another one of the drawer units, and with the also the sample sheets that I have for practice or for show here. Those are in a unit with catalogs. And then I have tattoos and tattoo samples in another drawer. It's just making it a lot easier for me to find stuff, because I've had stuff, I've moved it around. I had stuff in little totes that I was moving, but it was too hard to keep track of them. They would get misplaced every time I straightened up. I would move something out of the camera's view, and then it would get picked up and shifted, and I can't do it anymore. I was daydreaming. Now I'm down to the last one. Flower, butterfly, hummingbird. Without the sashing, it will be a little bit smaller, but I don't usually make quilts to be any specific size. I want the quilt to finish at the size that it wants to be, and today it wasn't having that sashing. And I really did have to get in here and do something today. The longer I go without doing something, the harder it is for me to get to do something. Just as I didn't have to really worry about the vertical seams, I don't have to worry about these horizontal seams either, because they're not going to be bumping into anything. So I'm just going to get those pressed, and then I will flip over the block to make sure that they are laying flat. And then I'll probably run this upstairs real quick just to give the body of the quilt a quick trim to make sure that we have nice square edges, because a couple of the blocks were just a little bit off. And then we can start with our inner border. There won't be any miters on the inner or outer borders today, because the fabric that I'm using for both don't really have enough of a design to warrant that. So I'm just going to be doing the top and bottom borders for the inner border first, and then I'll move on to the outer border. And I'm going to hope that when I go upstairs that I have something that I could use for the backing, because I really would like to go ahead and get this on the frame. And get it quilted. I'm going to go ahead and do the top, and then I'm going to go ahead and iron both of those, trim off the excess, and then I will do the two sides. But I think maybe the two sides I'm going to have to do, add a little piece to the length, because these are only with the fabric, and so I think these are only like 42 to 44 inches. And the length of this, obviously, because they're 12-inch blocks, is going to be 48 inches. So I'm going to have to add a little bit to these strips to make them long enough, but that's no problem. I knew that, so I cut a 5th strip for that purpose. I wonder how many of you made goals for the new year. I still would like to make a lot of Christmas quilts this year. It was my goal last year as well. I think I only got 1 made, maybe 2. But in the last couple months of the year, I found a bunch of Christmas fabric. A lot of batik Christmas fabric and a lot of woven Christmas fabric that I hadn't even seen. I actually found it on sale, so that was great, but I didn't even see it until it was on sale, so that was like double plus. This is going to be the quick part because I just have to sew a little piece. Actually, it almost could be that size. Let's see if that would be long enough. Yeah, the piece I cut off from the top is long enough to do the sides, so I'm just going to use that and save my 2.5-inch strip for some kind of a roly-poly quilt project. I remember when I first started quilting and buying a lot of batik fabric. Every batik fabric I bought, I would bring home and wash it, and then I would iron it, and I would cut both a 1.5-inch strip and a 2.5-inch strip fabric, and I would put those in a box because I thought, oh, I can make a log cabin or something out of them one day. And I never did do that. Somewhere I've got a big box full of fabric strips, 2 different sizes. I'm going to go ahead and break because I have to rethread the machine, and there's nothing more boring than watching that. Well, I jumped ahead. I got the all of the inner border on, and I got the top and bottom of the outer border on, and I'm on the last half of the outside border, the final outside border. As soon as I'm done, well, in the morning probably, I'm going to see if I can find a backing for Zen Garden, because I really would like to get this completely wrapped up. I have a good amount of this outer border left, so probably if I can get time, I'll go ahead and make the binding out of that as well. Regardless of what the backing may be. But if I absolutely can't find anything Friday I'll be near a local quilt store. And I can pick something up then. But I'll definitely get it quilted this week. So I'm going to go over to the iron and get the last 2 edges pressed out and trim up the last corners. And then I feel like I should be wearing green or orange, but I'm wearing blue. But we did get it finished today. Whew. So I feel really good about that. Now I just have to get in and edit the video. So this is going to be it for the top, but we do need to get it quilted. And I am looking forward to that. I think it turned out really good. Zen Garden is a beautiful quilting pattern, or beautiful applique pattern. This is a kit, so the applique pieces are laser cut. They're pre-fused with Steam 2, so that the kit would come just as you see the applique pieces here. They're very precisely cut with a laser. All you do is peel, place, and press. So that means you just peel the paper backing, position it where you need it, and once you're satisfied where the pieces are, then you go ahead and fuse it with both steam and heat. It does come, each block comes with a full color cover sheet. You get the full instructions with the kit, and it also comes with a full size placement guide pattern that you could reuse again later if you wanted to do needle turn applique or your own raw edge applique with fabric of your own. So that concludes today's video. Thanks for hanging around with me, and I look forward to getting this quilted. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other, and thanks for hanging around with me a little bit today. Mm-hmm.